Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Utirayet. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirviseshasha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 9 Text 9. Tasmai swalokam bhagavan sabhajitaha sandarshayam asha param nayat param vyapeta shanklesha vimoha sadavasam swadrishtavadbhir purusher abhishtutam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. The troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotional service bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Swalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material as conceived by the impersonalist. So Brahmaji, he was sitting on the lotus flower and he didn't know what to do. So he heard tapa, and that's how he started doing tapa. And so he engaged in bhakti yoga. He engaged in devotional service. And because of that, he could actually see the Vaikuntha lokas in front of him. He got so purified that he could see it. That's how he sang the Brahma Samhita prayers. So the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha Loka, is real. It's not that it does not exist, or it's not material, as some people say. as an impersonalist state. It exists, is permanent, and it is totally spiritual. But realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotional service. And thus, the devotees enter into such abodes. So how can we understand about the Vaikuntha Lokas? We have to engage in devotional service. We have to engage in bhakti. Only then we will be able to understand. Not only understand, we can go and live there. And bhakti begins by hearing and chanting, offering prayers, deity worship. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. So bhakti, when we are engaging in devotional service, the process of devotional service is also joyful and blissful. We hear and chant, we honor Krishna Prasad, we dance in front of the deity, have kirtan. So it's all happiness, it's all blissful. And the ultimate result, we'll continue to remain blissful in the spiritual world, even much more. But the people who engage in cultivating knowledge, artificial control of senses, trying to meditate on something, maybe a candle or a light. All these processes are very difficult. And what's the result of those processes? It's just the trouble that they are taking. There's nothing else. There is no profit in beating husks without grains. Similarly, there's no profit in executing troublesome penances other than bhakti yoga for self-realization. So other processes, except bhakti yoga, are compared to beating the husk of a grain. The husk of a grain means there's only, the grain is already come out of it. Only what is left behind is the peel, the skin. Now, if we are going to keep on beating the peels, thinking we are going to get grains from it, we're not going to do it. We won't be able to do it because the grain doesn't exist there. So no matter how much we beat the husk, nothing's going to come out. We won't get any grain. So the process of jnana yoga and dhyana yoga are compared to like that. Why? Because there is no ultimate personal relationship with the Lord. So it's not going to end in bliss. It's only in bhakti yoga that we can be situated in our original personal, original spiritual form and have our original personal relationship with Krishna. Executing bhakti yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahma was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. So Brahmaji was sitting on the lotus flower, which comes out of the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and there he was executing his devotional service. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Krama Sandarbha annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotations from the Brahad Arankya Upanishad, Vedic evidence. Now, Jiva Goswami is one of the great acharyas in our line of parampara, disciplic succession. He's one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and he has written amazing, amazing commentaries and books. It is said that Yajnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahma Loka. So he's giving evidence. Srila Jiva Goswami, he gives a lot of evidence from the different scriptures, Upanishads, Puranas. So here he's saying that in the Brahad Aranyakya Upanishad, he's saying that Yajnavalkya, who is a sage, he described the Vaikuntha Loka to Gargi. And he told him that the Vaikuntha Loka is situated above the material world. It's situated above the Brahma Loka. Brahma Loka is the highest planet in this material world. This abode of the Lord although described in revealed scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Herein, the word swadrashta-vadbhi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of one's self. That is what self-realization is, to see our own true spiritual form. That is self-realization, because that's who we truly are. Impersonal realization of the self and the Supreme is not complete, because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. So the impersonalists who want to go and sit in the Brahma Jyoti, who think that we are just light, that is not the proper liberation. That's not the proper realization of the self. Our self-realization is when we can actually see our true spiritual form. And nobody has to tell that to us artificially. Not that somebody is going to come and tell me, oh, you know, you're a peacock in Vaikuntha and I should believe them. No, no. It will all be revealed in good time when we engage in Bhakti Yoga. The more we purify ourselves is because, for example, if we are wearing glasses and those glasses are dirty, the only thing we have to do is we have to clean the glasses. That's all. And then we can be able to see clearly. Nobody needs to give me commentary, oh, you can see this, you are seeing this, you are seeing that. Because they will tell me from their perception what they are seeing. But if I want to see, I just need to clean my glasses. Similarly, we are not able to see our true self right now because our consciousness is covered. Only thing, we have to clean our consciousness. Cleaning the consciousness begins by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, by hearing from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So,
who is Yajnavalkya?
Yajnavalkya is one of the sages. Yeah, he's one of the sages. I'm not sure if he's mentioned too much in the Srimad Bhagavatam or no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it seems he's a devotee of the Lord. He's a devotee of the Lord, and that's how he could explain the Vaikuntha Lok to Gargi. You know, if he was not a devotee, he wouldn't be able to say about the spiritual world.
Okay. So you mean Srila Jeev Goswami says that this is what he comments that Yajnavalkya described.
Yes, Jiva Goswami is saying, Jiva Goswami, he wrote a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Those are called the 6 Sandarbhas. Now, in one of the Sandarbha, called the Krama Sandarbha, okay, that's Jiva Goswami's commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. He is quoting the Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad. And in the Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad, it is mentioned that Yajnavalkya described the Vaikuntha Lok to Gargi. So there is always evidence when the devotees are speaking anything. They are saying, okay, it's mentioned in this Upanishad, it's mentioned in this Purana. So that's how Jiva Goswami is giving us this evidence that, hey, this devotee called Yajnavalkya also informed what's the location of the spiritual world, that it's above the material world, like that. So because whenever we say anything, we should have the evidence where we are speaking from. What is the backing? Otherwise, people might think you're just making up things, you know. It's all mental speculation.
Yeah, like you quote, right? Person.
I'm sorry?
You quote a person, right? Like, yeah, okay, this person said like that.
Yeah, and that person should be a sadhu or a devotee or a guru. And that person should be speaking to the same things that are mentioned in the Shastras, in the scriptures. It's like in the law book, you know, when we are in a law, when we are in the courtroom, so the lawyer will say, oh, my lord, according to section this of this, you know, this should be the law, isn't it? That's how the case is presented, and that's how the judgment is given, based on the law book. So same, our law books are the scriptures, the Vedas are our law books. And so the devotees present, okay, in this Veda, in this Upanishad, in this, it's mentioned like this. So there is no discrepancy, you know, that is the evidence. Is that okay?
Yes, yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay. So otherwise, because if imagine a lawyer will say, oh, according to me, it should be like that. They'll say, what do you mean according to me? Like that, then everybody will have according to me, you know, 7 billion people will have their own things, but they always follow a law book. So we also need to follow the scriptures, which are the law book for mankind, where it's clearly stated about Krishna, about his transcendental abode, like that. So let's read on. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of devotees of the Lord are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with 5 kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. So the Supreme Lord, his body is Satchidananda. And everyone who is in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha Loka, their body is also Satchidananda. They do not have a material body. They do not have a difference like us, how we are. We have a material body, but we are actually the soul inside the body. But in the spiritual world, there is no difference like that. Now, what is the material body? Why is it miserable? Because it is ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. And these are the causes of our misery. As long as one is overwhelmed by these 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into the Vaikuntha Lokas. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of material personality and is far from the positive existence of the personal form. So the impersonal conception, oh, that I'm a spirit soul, you know, and that we are all light. Yeah, that's the impersonal conception, that I'm not this body, but I'm a spirit. But that does not give us, okay, if you're a soul, then what is your activities of the soul? How do you look like? You know, what's your name? What's your address? Where do you live? So, but in bhakti, we can get all that. That where is my true home? How do I look like? What's my name? What activities do I do? All that can be understood with bhakti. It will be revealed. Nobody has to tell us anything. The personal.
What is, sorry.
I'm sorry.
What is the absorption in that 5 kinds of miserable conditions?
How we get so absorbed in, you know, you have sometimes the mind, you see, we are just thinking of something and how we get so absorbed in thinking of something.
Okay.
You know, like totally, we get totally disconnected with everything. So absorbed. Now, the same absorption, if we could just absorb ourselves in Krishna, or hearing about Krishna, or chanting his name, you know, then that can become our greatest asset. If the same absorption that we have for the material, whatever activity we are doing, we get so absorbed in it. But if
okay, so absorption in material things. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So the personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a cowherd boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. So Brahmaji, he could see not only the Vaikuntha Lokas, the spiritual world, but he could also see the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka, which is called Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna himself lives. So if somebody asks, what's the address of Krishna? What's the address of God? Where does he live? He lives in Goloka Vrindavan. And what does he do there? He's a cowherd boy. He has so many Surabhi cows over there. And he's enjoying the pastimes with his friends, with his parents, with the cows, the peacocks. And over there, he's also surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Hundreds and thousands. So all the gopis, they are actually goddesses of fortunes. And so in Brahma Samhita 5.29, Lord Brahma says, Chintamani prakara sadamashu kalpa vriksha laksha varteshu surabir abhil palayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevayamanam govindam adi purusham tam aham bhajami. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama, is also confirmed herewith. Param means transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, none different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, when they use the word non-different, it means the spiritual world, it's made up also of Satchidananda. It's not that the Lord becomes the abode and he does not have his own person. No, the inconceivable potency of the Lord is that he's a person and he has made everything by his energy. And so the spiritual world is not like this material world made up of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. It's not those things. The spiritual world is Satchidananda, eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Over there, there's no dirt. Over how we have here on the road, we have dirt, stones that we walk on. In the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, it's all Chintamani over there. Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, he also describes that how there's Chintamani stones everywhere over there, Chintamani is a jewel, a wish-fulfilling jewel. And anything you touch with a Chintamani jewel, everything will turn to gold, like that. So it's very opulent over there. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means no misery, no anxiety. That means Vaikuntha, where no Kuntha, anxiety. So a place where there is no anxiety. And Krishna also doesn't have any anxiety. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. So we can enter this Vaikuntha Loka also in our own true spiritual forms. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So text 10. So we should have that desire that I want to go to this Vaikuntha Loka. I want to go to Goloka Vrindavan. Somehow or the other, we should try to have the desire, And then by hearing and chanting, by engaging in Bhakti Yoga, we will reach there. We will for sure. Text 10. Pravartate yatra rajas tamastayoho sattvam cha mishram na cha kala vikramaha na yatra maya kim uttapare harir anuvrata yatra sura chitaha. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. So here Brahmaji is explaining, he's speaking more about Vaikuntha. The kingdom of God, or the atmosphere of the Vaikuntha nature, which is called the Tripad Vibhuti, is 3 times bigger than the material universes and is described here as also in the Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. So the spiritual world, the material creation is just 1/4 of the total creation. The spiritual world is 3/4 of the Lord's creation. This universe containing billions of stars and planets is one of the billions of such universes clustered together within the compass of the Mahat Tattva. So in our universe is one of the billions and billions of universe which exist in this material world. And all these millions and billions of universes combined together constitute only 1/4 of the magnitude of the whole creation of the Lord. So imagine this material creation that is so baffling to all of us, you know. The scientists are trying to understand what is this whole material creation about. It's only 1/4 of the total creation. The 3/4 of the creation is the spiritual world. So the scientists don't have proper information of the material world itself. How can they give us the information of the spiritual world? The information of the spiritual world we can get only from the devotees who have the spiritual vision, from the scriptures that speak about spiritual topics. You know, say it's the same thing. If I want to know about computers, I will take a course of computer science. You know, I can't go to a cooking course and expect to learn about computers over there. So if I want to know about the spiritual world, I need to listen from the devotees who are speaking from the scriptures. There is a spiritual sky also. Beyond this sky are the spiritual planets under the names of Vaikuntha, and all of them constitute 3/4 of the entire creation of the Lord. God's creations are always innumerable. Even the leaves of a tree cannot be counted by a man, nor can the hairs on his head. However, foolish men are puffed up with the idea of becoming God himself, though unable to create a hair of their own bodies. So we are trying to, we think, okay, I'm God. But imagine the whole creation of God. He's created all these millions and billions of universes, which is only a tiny portion of his whole creation. And he's created the spiritual world also. And we are trying to compete with him, where we cannot, here Prabhupada is saying, we are even not able to create our own hair of our body. Now they have the extensions, but I don't know if they create a hair in there. Or is it they just take hair from one part of the body and put it in another, you know? So we can't even create anything. Man may discover so many wonderful vehicles of journey, but even if he reaches the moon by his much advertised spacecraft, he cannot remain there. The sane man, therefore, without being puffed up, as if he were the God of the universe, abides by the instructions of the Vedic literature, the easiest way to acquire knowledge in transcendence. So if we are intelligent, we can try to understand, oh, I don't think I'm God. I was probably thinking I am God, but looks like I'm not God. So let me try to find out who God really is, you know. And how can I find out? From the Vedic literatures, by the devotees. So let us know through the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the nature and constitution of the transcendental world beyond the material sky. The Bhagavatam is speaking about Vaikuntha Loka. In that sky, the material qualities, especially the modes of ignorance and passion, are completely absent. Here in the material world, majority of us are in the mode of ignorance and passion. You know, all our activities are, most of our activities are influenced by ignorance and passion. But in Vaikuntha Lok, there is no ignorance, there's no passion. The mode of ignorance influences a living entity to the habit of lust and hankering. And this means that in the Vaikuntha Lokas, the living entities are free from these two things. Lust and hankering, that is what is keeping us here, you know. Our desire to be the controller, our desire that I am God, I need to imitate him. You know, we might not say it, no, I don't think I'm God, how could I be God? But by our actions, by our thoughts, by our words, what are we saying? As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Brahmabhuta stage of life, one becomes free from hankering and lamentation. Therefore, the conclusion is that the inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets are all Brahma Bhuta living entities, as distinguished from the mundane creatures who are all compact in hankering and lamentation. So the Brahma Bhuta platform, Krishna speaks about this in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54. Brahma Bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kanchati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. He says that once one reaches the stage of liberation, then he sees all living entities equally, and equally, that he does not make any distinction between any living entity. And there is no desire, there's no hankering. The only desire is to please the Supreme Lord. So, and that's the situation in Vaikuntha planets. So that's why there is no misery there, because everybody has one goal for the pleasure of God. So, for example, when we throw stones in water, if each of us throws the stones in the water in different places, what will happen is it will create multiple ripples, and all those ripples will clash against each other. We will all create ripples with our stones, and there will be so many ripples in different places, and those ripples will keep clashing. But if each of us keep throwing the stone at the same position, position, what will happen? It will create ripples, but all those ripples will be in concentric circles. They will not clash. They will be just concentric, and they'll grow bigger and bigger. So similarly, when we keep Krishna in the center, there is not going to be any clash, whether in the Vaikuntha Loka or here in the material world. Our material world can become as good as Vaikuntha Loka if we keep Krishna in center. That we are doing this for the pleasure of Krishna. But if we don't do that, we are putting ourselves in the center. Then each of us will say, hey, it's supposed to be for my benefit. And then this is how we clash against each other, which gives a rise to so much unrest and disturbance. When one is not in the mode of ignorance and passion, one is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness in the material world. Goodness in the material world also at times becomes contaminated by the touches of the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Vaikuntha Loka, it is unalloyed goodness only. So in the Vaikuntha Loka, even goodness exists only in its pure form. So it's all happiness there. There is no unrest, no misery, no fear, no anxiety. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
We can stop here then. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for joining, and have a great